Good morning, good morning. It is 7:24 a.m. Thursday, October 27th, here for the pre-market analysis and trade ideas video. Looking at the economic calendar for today, we have the big ECB interest rate decision where they are expected to raise interest rates by 75 basis points here. So this should bring in some volatility in the markets, even though it's the euro. This is quite an important central bank here. So if we have, even yesterday we had the Canadian bank raise rates by 50 basis points when the market expected 75 basis points. So anything, if they deviate from the forecast, especially, we're going to have some impact in the markets here. So we're going to be cautious around trading before these interest rate decisions here, and at 8:30, which is 15 minutes after this announcement, we have a flurry of economic data for the US. So I'm going to be waiting for data to come out to see if there's any clear sentiment that comes out from these this group of important data coming out for today, as the US, the core durable goods orders, month over month core, and just the regular durable goods, and the GDP as well, which is actually forecasted to have a rebound. So if the GDP is rebounded 2.4, that's actually, they're expecting a pretty good rebound here. This should be bearish if we have anywhere near this forecast. This should be bearish because, I mean, this is against what the Fed wants to accomplish, right? The Fed actually wants to bring us into a slight recession in order to bring inflation down. But if GDP is super hot right here, core durable goods, if that comes out hot as well, this could have a bearish implication on the stock markets, and a bullish implication on the US dollar here. So I'll be waiting for this data to come out and to decide, or to observe basically, if there is some clear sentiment that comes from this data here. As the US dollar, if we zoom out to the 4-hour time frame, on the 4-hour time frame, we see that we've been rejecting and respecting this pullback structure from these highs here, the aggressive sell-off induced by some currency interventions by Japan and China, some continued interventions as foreign governments are selling off US dollar reserves. We saw a continuation, a strong sell-off in the US dollar. This came down to retest previous demand levels around 109.5. This is the price level that induced the buyers to pump up dollar into multi-decade highs around 114.6 ish. So we're having an initial reaction here. However, we are still maintaining below this low here, just in a little bit of a pullback here. I'm not convinced that this bounce from these lows is as strong as like this push on the way up here, right? I would need to validate some further bullish price action to say that we're going to resume the bullish sentiment on dollar. So far, I'm still in a US dollar bearish bias for the day, as we're starting to reject these lows here, maintaining this bearish structure. But again, let's zoom into the 1 hour here real quick. Again, I'm going to be waiting for the economic data. We could have different sentiments come in from that data. So if the data comes out positive for the US dollar, well, it would actually come out negative for the US economy, which would be positive for the US dollar. We could have a bounce and a break back above these levels. Now, a break back above 110.5 area, this would be the confirmation for me to look for US dollar strength in my trade ideas. Now, a break back below this previous lows here, 109.9, 110, that would be clear signs for me to take some sells to retest the lows, and even better signs of US dollar weakness would be a break below these lows then we could see further pullback on the US dollar here. So I'm going to be waiting to see the US dollar and what implication it has. And because looking over at the equity markets and the investor sentiment and equities is continuing its, if you look at the VIX here, we are still near the lows, showing more optimistic sentiment, low volume and volatility, based on equities maintaining bullish structure here, even if our recent high rejected this daily break of structure on the bear side, important bearish structure here. We rejected that, but we're still pretty much flat. And as long as we maintain this range above 3,800, between 38 and 39, we're probably going to have indecision and overall optimistic sentiment holding. I would need to see a break back above 3,900 to see any continuation of the optimistic sentiment, or a break back below 3,800 to validate that potentially the fundamental bias is coming back into play, and that fundamental bias is bear stocks based on the rising interest rates from the Feds, who need to be aggressive to combat inflation. So this is my preferred sentiment here, because next week we have the FOMC for November, where it's very likely that the pivot prayers that induced this pullback is going to get shut down, because inflation is still high, the labor market is still strong, so there's still a lot of room for the Fed to increase and maintain interest rates at high levels, which is bearish for the stock markets, which is bullish for the US dollar, and bearish for gold here. That on the 4-hour time frame is a little bit more messy. I'm going to be very cautious with gold, since we are just stuck within this range here, back below this previous this 4-hour structure level, 1668, which is an important bearish level, but also above previous 1661, which is also a strong bullish level within this pullback structure. Right, this high, higher low, higher high, this. So we are being squeezed right now with indecision between two important levels here. So this is why today I'm going to be very cautious. I'm going to be sitting on the sidelines and waiting to see if the data does bring in some one-sided volatility and clear sentiment, because on the 1 hour we see this even more clearly. Gold is just ranging, so I'm not going to fight the range. I'm going to wait for a clean break, either continuation of the pullback sentiment, which probably would be confirmed by breaks back above 1668 to retest 1680s. So then we wait for either a break above this level here, or preferably on the sell side, breaks back below 1654 area for sells, because if we're between the 1661 and 1655 range, this is still, in my opinion, potential deeper pullback to continue. Wait, let's clear this up. So I prefer not to sell within this range, because I do see the potential for a retest of these lows that coincides with some bullish structure here, to continue with this sentiment before getting that sell from these levels here. So for me to confirm buys, again, breaks above this level, breaks below this level, or else I'm pretty much not going to touch gold here, as we have indecision, and basically investors are mostly waiting for that Fed sentiment coming in next week here. Now GU is a little bit more clean, in my opinion. We've got cleaner structure on the higher time frames, with this nice impulsive break above previous daily structure levels. We've got some clean bullish price action from the lows, creating some bullish structure here, higher highs and higher lows on the higher time frames, with early on this week that break to the upside, breaking that important structure level on the 4 hour. So based on the 1 hour time frame here, I'm not feeling confident in taking buys at this level within the middle of the range, especially since we had this accumulation of sell orders near these highs, breaking down to the downside, and we've got bears into control on the time being. For the time being, I'd much prefer to wait for buys at better demand areas around the 4 hour break of structure 1.15 to get those buys, or breaks above the 1 hour supply level 1636, or deeper pullbacks. Again, this is also a very important level, daily break of structure and the 4 hour demand around 1.14, 1.143 to get those buys. And safer sells, I would only really sell if we come right back below 1.14 or from the top of this range here. Right, so green are the buys and sells would be from the top of the range here or breaking below this level. So this is basically my trade ideas for GU, and I have to again validate that with the US dollar and the equity sentiment here, but waiting for the buys, waiting for a break and retest above 1.1636, retest of 1.15 or retest of 1.144, and for the sells, retest of 1.72 area, 1.17, or a break and retest below 1.14. So that's it for today's trade ideas and analysis. We'll see what happens.